We, the Alumni Club, welcome you all to Milaap Session 4, Episode 1. And here today, the Alumni Club bring you to this session, making a big as a freelancer, photographer, cinematographer.
We need to know what is photography, right? Photography is basically a combination of photos and graphos. Now, what is photos and what is graphos? Now, all these are basically Greek words, and the meaning of photos is light. Now, graphos meaning is painting or writing. For photography, light is a very important medium. Okay? And so what we do is we basically create paintings with lights. Now, that is basically our job. Now, this is the basic definition of photography. Now, who is a photographer? Now, this is also very, very important. Now, nowadays, because of digital era, we all are photographer, right? So, we basically carry our DSLRs with long lenses and we claim ourselves as a photographer. But to be a photographer, what is very, very important is you have to be very passionate. And the next important factor is you need to be very skilled, right? Now, suppose you also have to be very knowledgeable. Then the next point is you also have to be very, very dedicated. You also have to be very, very passionate and hardworking. You might have seen HDR. Now, we always use our mobile phone, right, for taking pictures. In mobile phone, we have something called HDR. So the full form of HDR is high dynamic range. We have different kinds of cameras nowadays, right? Now, most of the cameras are digital. Now, be it a point and shoot cameras or a simple mobile phone, nowadays we can capture 4K videos with our mobile phones. So it is very, very important for all of us to know our device. Now, it can be a simple point and shoot cameras as well as it can be a simple mobile phone or a dedicated DSLR. Now, if you don't know how to use your device, then it will be very difficult for you to capture different situations, right? GoPro. Now, what is the use of GoPro? Not 360. What we use is we use this kind of GoPro cameras for capturing different kinds of actions, right? Now, you must have seen there are a lot of moto vloggers. They basically use all these small compact cameras. Now, it also has some features like this is waterproof, right? So, and we can also mount it anywhere. So, we have a lot of rigs and we can easily mount it anywhere. Now, suppose I have to capture one particular scene from that side. So I can easily mount that GoPro there. Now, suppose if I want to do some underwater video, then obviously I'm not going to use my mirrorless camera or DSLR, right? So what I have to use is, I have to use one GoPro, which is waterproof. So that is why it is very, very important for all of us to know your device. So we have different genres of photography, right? Now, what we have to do is we have to know which one is best for me. Now, as a photographer, I can easily start with different kinds of genres. Now, I can cover 2 through 3 different types of photography. Then you have to be very, very focused, right? And you have to start working on that. Now, nowadays, I don't get time and I really miss taking macro photographs. Now, these are my best photographs. And let me tell you, I don't have a macro lens. Now, do you know what is macro? Taking pictures of a tiny object, or it can be anything. So taking pictures, now it is basically a magnification, right? Magnifying glass. So this is a very tiny damselfly, and there are some alternatives. If you don't have a dedicated cameras also or lens, you can easily take some macro photographs. Now what I'm doing is I'm using one DSLR camera. So what you can do is you can just alternate the lens. So this is called reverse lens technique. So if you are reversing the lens, then it will give you magnified photograph. Now this is one way of doing macro photography by using your DSLR, and it is very, very difficult to capture or to get the focus. Now we have something called shallow depth of field, again technical term. Now can you please tell me for what kind of photograph we use basically this kind of blurry background? Now this is the main reason is because we are focusing on the subject. What about street? That is candid. So that is how you have to develop your passion, as well as that is how you need to know how to use your camera in different settings. Now there is different kinds of composition rules. Now one is basically frame within a frame. Now that is basically a frame. That gate is basically a frame, and I have some subjects right at the back. This is one kind of lockdown for them, right? Now there are few features. You can see the lock and key, right? Now you can see the lock, that is also plays a very, very important role. Now whenever you are taking some photographs, now my subject is very, very important, right? Now, apart from the subject also, there are few additional elements. These are also very important for the overall composition. Now whenever you are capturing some street photographs, there has to be some storyline. Now snapshot is basically, suppose I am taking some selfie. Now that is basically a snapshot. But what about photograph? Photography is basically, there has to be some storyline. What about the depth of field? It's shallow, right? Look at his eyes. He's looking like Tarzan, right? Now, as you can see the reflection on his eyes, right? Now, that is the main subject for this particular photograph. Is there any significance of that hand at the back? Mother's love and care, right? Now, most of the point and shoot what we have is we have zoom, right? 40x, 50x zoom. Now, I have taken this photograph inside a zoo. As you can see, this is also one example of shallow depth of field, but again one very good example of decisive movement, that specific movement. It was there for fraction of a second. Now after clicking one particular photograph, gone. Whenever you're covering any events, now be it college events or any kind of school fest, what you have to do is you have to capture the photograph from different angle, right? Now it totally depends on the design. Now in BMS what we have is we have something called photography and design. Now these are interconnected, right? Now you also have to have some ideas about the designing of the layout. Okay, so that is how you basically take the shots. Now, all these things are very important whenever you're covering something for any media house or these kind of online portals or newspapers. Again, I have taken some wide angle shot. Even if you're using your mobile phone, we have ultra wide angle mode, right? Now that is basically called long shot. Now long shot is also known as establishment shot. Whenever you're capturing some portraits, whenever you're capturing some fashion shoot, what you have to do is you have to select the camera. Then the next important factor is the shallow depth of field. Then the third factor is you also have to communicate with the model.